From the Grind Up with Jeff McClain. Real stories, real hustle, real success.
Welcome to From the Grind Up. I'm your host, Jeff McClain. We have a very special guest, a personal friend of mine, Jim Henson. He's also does all of our commercial and personal insurance, actually, for my business as well as my personal stuff. He's, again, a friend of mine. He's a very honorable guy, a Christian guy, father, husband, someone I'm proud to call a friend. And on top of that, he's an Army vet with some interesting stories on that. And I think there's going to be a lot of great things for everyone to take from it today. So, Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and real quick talk about what you do professionally. I mean, in the show, we're definitely going to get into your history, what makes you you. You know, you and I are in alignment in so many different ways, and with the things we talk on the show of just doing hard things and being masculine, taking care of the things you need to take care of. And I think that's a really important thing for men and for our audience in particular, which is one of the reasons I asked you on the show. But, you know, on top of that, it's just, you know, really like, what do you do professionally? Like, how would you describe what you do?
So I'm a commercial insurance broker, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, my main point of, I guess my purpose and my drive is for construction. I come from a construction background, and so that's how I kind of got started. And so I write about 75% of my book of business is construction, and the rest that's mixed in is some healthcare and things like that. But I have a passion for construction, contractors. I know I'm very comfortable with writing the insurance for contractors because I know it so well. So that's kind of, my book of business, if you will.
Right.
And I have a pretty good reputation in the industry and in the Valley and mostly Southern California, where, now after doing this for 23 years, we really just rely on referrals. It's mostly, clients that I have, somebody has a need, and we're able to get our foot in the door that way. So It's been a really, really interesting ride. I started this in 2004. So I got licensed in 2004. I started in 2003. And there's been a lot of bumps along the way, obviously 2008, and that kind of stalls your business a little bit.
Sure.
And we've had some bumps in the road, but really since 2010, we really have kind of hit the ground running and done a really good job.
Yeah, and I think you've been doing our business for at least 10 years.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how long, but I will say, we have our car salespeople or our truck people we buy from. We're loyal. We have our insurance people. We have our, all these different aspects of professional services that we use, and you're definitely one of those that we genuinely trust. It's like, as you know, you bring in these proposals for the next year, and I take about 30 seconds to look at it because I know you're not doing me wrong. So, guys, if you're doing business and you don't have that type of relationship with your broker, probably need to find a new broker. Well, obviously, if you're, we'll have Jim's stuff up later, so you can, if you want to reach out and talk to him. But I think it's really important as contractors, as business owners in general, we have enough to think about on a daily basis. And these guys get paid to make sure that they're taking care of us and that you're properly insured, you're not overinsured, you're not underinsured. And we shouldn't have to scrutinize every single page of a proposal or an insurance contract. That's literally not what we do. So again, having a guy like Jim that you can trust has been a huge weight off of my back so I can focus on what I do. Yeah. So on the show, we definitely like to talk about what makes us us, and insurance is what you do for a living, but it's not who you are as a person, right? And again, like I described you earlier, we're aligned in so many ways. We have similar backgrounds, a lot of different things happening, obviously, between childhood and now that were unique to you and unique to me, but we still end up more or less at the same place.
Yeah.
And we're similar in age. We both believe in, doing hard things, taking care of our families, going to the gym, reading books, whatever it is to become the best version of yourself. And it's interesting when I talk to people that have that same alignment, same drive, we always seem to have a very similar background or upbringing. It's almost like it's required, so let's talk about that. Where were you born? What was your, and I'll ask some specific questions, but where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Hemet. I was born in Riverside, but we lived in Hemet.
Okay.
So born and raised in Hemet. I lived on Gilbert Street. If anybody knows Hemet, it's rough now, obviously.
Yeah.
But we had a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, no air conditioning in Hemet in the middle of summer was extremely fun, and it built character. But yeah, I mean, I had a pretty good, childhood from when I was maybe 1 till maybe 5th grade or so.
Okay.
Things seemed great, in my family. My my dad left me and my brother and my mom when I was about 3 years old. So, growing up without a dad was just normal to me. Didn't bother me in that way. I wasn't older. I was young enough to not really be affected by it. I had an amazing grandfather, Navy veteran, retired, and grandmother that, you know, were really a huge example in not just my life, but my brother's life as well. And yeah, so that was my early childhood. My mom did remarry to a mechanic, local mechanic in Hemet, and growing up in Hemet was actually was good for me. At the time, it wasn't what it is now. It was a good place to have friends and mess around, and I skateboarded a lot, so it was like we did whatever we wanted, didn't get in trouble, and there was nobody hunting us down or anything like there is now. You don't let your kids go outside ever in Hemet. But yeah, and about I think I told you a little bit earlier. When I was in 6th grade is kind of when I realized that my mom unfortunately kind of became an alcoholic, and so that consumed her. And my stepdad worked. I would go to school and he wouldn't come home until 8 or 9 o'clock at night from work. And so me and my brother really kind of, raised ourselves with our grandparents, assisting in that way. And my mom wasn't, full blown all the time, but she would binge a lot, and we would be in that situation. So, growing up with that, makes you not ever want to drink or do certain things. And that's the way me and my brother were. We were just very like, I want to get the hell out of here as soon as I can type thing.
It's interesting how many people have a similar background, and you kind of make a choice of this is my lot in life, so this is what I'm going to do, or this is my lot in life, this is what I'm not going to do, right? Yeah. And there's very few people in the middle, and you either come out of those environments strongly on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence, and I don't know what it is, because I'm like you mentioned your grandfather. Like, for those of you that know some of my story, if I had asked, if someone asked me who the most important person in my life, up to being married and having a wife and whatnot, my formidable years, it would for sure have been my grandfather. And it sounds like you'd probably say the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. So how important is that, and I had a father. I mean, my father was a drug addict, alcoholic, wasn't really there. So he existed, but he wasn't really there to teach me fatherly stuff. But my grandfather stepped in, and that was probably my saving grace. Would you say the same thing for you? I mean, just someone to aspire to be.
Yep.
Right.
100%. Me and my brother both, we loved our grandparents very much. It's funny. I would, after school, when I was in 6th grade, 7th grade, I would ride to my grandparents' house after school, and my grandmother would always have these like little rolled bean and cheese burritos waiting for me, or a sandwich. My grandfather, I can remember going in his garden, because he had a garden, picking strawberries and tomatoes, and eating very cold tomatoes, little cherry tomatoes, just those little triggers in your mind. Whenever I eat a tomato, I think of him. It's funny, but just very old school, I mean, very by the book, very honest, lots of integrity. His word was gold, and I never once, he never told me anything that wasn't true. Trips to the commissary to get groceries and things like that. But he was a very humble man who, loved us, and we loved him right back.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see guys like yourself and guys like me, and definitely old school, definitely almost an old soul. Yeah. And you're like, where did that come from? Where are these values you have? And, opening the door for your wife, and making sure your wife doesn't work if she doesn't want to. And, all the things that we both are in alignment with, you can really trace it back to like that. Yeah. I certainly can in my own life. Yeah. Like I'm a version of my grandfather, and which is definitely dying breed to this day. But it's so simple, and it's so it's just beautiful, frankly. You
Yeah.
know, there's no better way. And you find yourself in that situation as a man and you realize this is what we're here for.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so many people miss the boat on that. Was there like a moment, and maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, in your childhood where you decided, and it's not like you were on this wrong path, like you said,
Yeah.
but you were growing up in what's known, if you know, locally here is, you know, is a fairly underprivileged community, if you will,
Mhm.
fairly poor community. Was there a point where you just kind of looked around and was like, I want something different. I don't want to buy the house next door and repeat this life. You know, I want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%. We so to go forward, we got to kind of go back. But
Yeah.
when I was 15 years old, my mom basically said, you know, you got to get a job and kind of pay your way, you know. And I'm 15.
Right.
I can't drive yet. I did have a car. My brother sold me his 1961 Chevy Impala, so I was making payments on that and driving it around as much as I could. Growing up in Hemet, everybody knew how to drive from when you
Right.
were 11 years old and
Yeah.
on. So, but so there was a pizza restaurant up the street. So I rode my bike up there and lied and said, I'm 16 years old. It was brand new. They hadn't opened yet. So I opened the restaurant with them, and that's where I worked. Oddly enough, when I became 18 years old, I could deliver pizzas and actually make tips. And so these people that owned the restaurant too, they knew my background and what I was going through in life. And they treated me like I was their son. They fed me constantly and took me to their house in Canyon Lake, which at that time was like
Oh wow.
big
You wanted to
thing.
go to
Yeah,
Newport.
exactly. So they were kind of my adopted parents, if you will, amazing people. So I started delivering pizzas, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm delivering pizzas to this one girl and her friend, you know, every weekend. It's either at her house or her friend's house. But, and one night I was actually closing the restaurant. I was leaving, and my boss said, oh, okay, can you grab these straws before you leave? And they were kind of up on a shelf, you know, and so I grabbed the straws and I go to open them and they would not open. And I open them finally and they, boom, go everywhere. Well, my wife, not at the time, this girl that I'd been delivering pizzas to was sitting in front with her mom, and these straws go everywhere. So we had this like Lady in the Tramp
That's
moment.
when she knew. That's when she knew. That's the one for me.
Exactly. The Lady in the Tramp moment where she helps me with the straws and we look in each other's eyes. And now I'd probably go to prison now for being a stalker, but what ended up happening was I knew where she lived. So I drove home, took a shower to get all the pizza smell off of me, and drove to her house, knocked on her door, and her mom answers, and I, you know, her mom knew who I was too, and she said, "Kimberly, the door's for you." And I didn't even know what her name was. And I go, okay, her name's Kimberly. Okay, good, I'm dialed in. So from that point on, that was it. That was
So you were
my
18?
story with her. I was 18. She was 16, and then we dated for a couple of years, and I ended up taking a job with a rental company doing construction equipment rental.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, it was called GKN Rentals. You might remember it way back in the day. But so I was kind of an assistant manager of a store out in Highland. So I'm driving to Highland every day.
Mm-hmm.
And just one day I was driving, and I'm like, this is not for me. This is not the life. I'm not going to drive to Highland, be struggling in every move I make. I got to get out of Hemet. You know, that's the plan here. So I had some friends that had gone in the Army, and I made some calls and talked to them, and they said, whatever you do, you have to go infantry. Everybody else is just pogues. They just support what you do. You are the main. So I'm like, well, I got to be that main guy. So I'm going to go infantry. So I enlisted, and before I went in, my ship date was April 12th, 1994. So before I went in, my recruiter said, what are you and, you know, Kim doing? And I said, well, when I get out of basic training, we're going to get married. And he said, well, if I can make a suggestion, get married before you go in, even though she's only 17. So she'll be on your orders, she'll get healthcare and all that stuff. So we did. We went to Vegas. She was 17. I had just turned 20, and we got married. And I shipped off to Fort Benning, Georgia, to infantry school, and that's where I went.
So you've been married 30 years?
32.
32. Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys, it can be done. You know, so many people, I think,
Yeah.
on that topic, and as you know, my son, who's 20,
Yeah.
just got married a couple weeks ago, and I think the vast majority of people, if they think I don't hear them,
Yeah.
are like, oh, that's crazy. I can't believe they're getting married this young, and they should
Yeah.
wait till they should wait till they're 30 and go run amok and cause all kinds of baggage and then come together. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that society has just told everybody to do that,
Right.
and you're a perfect example of the opposite of that working.
Yeah. No, I definitely, my wife is my saving grace, you know, and I can say this without a doubt, you know, I would have probably followed in the trajectory of my mom if I didn't have somebody like my wife who knows my history, who knows that, you know, I could become an alcoholic. It's in my blood. It's in my genes. And so she is, you know, she's my alive conscience, if you will, you know, and she
Right.
keeps me in check and keeps me in line. Not to be a nagging person, but to be a supporting, loving wife, just having my back and making sure I'm not making stupid mistakes.
Right. Well, their job is to, you know, be a helpmate to us, to
Mhm.
be able to
100%.
guide us, which is tricky, guide us in their feminine way.
Right.
Right. That's where they mess up when they try to guide us in a masculine way. Right. That's when it doesn't work.
Yes.
But when hey, honey, you know, it'd be great if you did this. And
Yeah.
it's like, that will make you happy, honey? Yes. Then I'm going to do it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're so simple.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But women make the mistake all the time of like, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. And it's like, my husband doesn't listen to me. Well, yeah, no kidding. That's we're not wired like that.
Yeah.
But if you say to me, this would make me so happy if this happened,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you're the same way, it's
Yeah.
like, well, I'm going to move heaven and earth to make that happen.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And she still controlled us. However, we didn't know it. That's okay. I'd rather not know.
Jedi mind tricks.
Exactly.
Yes.
They're very good at that stuff. So you go into the Army, went to Georgia, went through basic training,
Yep.
and, you know, tell me a little bit about that.
That was interesting. You know, they didn't really prepare me for basic training. And what I realized was, I think it was 14 weeks total was basic and then AIT, which is like your infantry school. So you go through basic training 8 weeks, you get a weekend off, and then you start infantry school, which basically for an infantryman is just extended basic training. It's just more beatings, you know, from like a smoke session.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you get into more technical things, but really it's just a continued infantry basic training. And so we get to this reception center, and I'm thinking, you know, day one I get there starts my 14 weeks of hell, and I'm going to be back with Kim, and we'll be back together. And it's like, oh no, you have to stay in the reception center for a couple weeks before basic training, but you have to do all this stuff to get out of the reception center. You know, so if you had a cavity, you get delayed. If you can't run a mile in 9 minutes, you get delayed, or things like that. So I literally made sure that I was out of there in 2 weeks, no matter what, you know. And then your basic training starts. So I was kind of in shell shock from basic training. I won't lie to you. I was like a little girl. I cried, you know, because you know, I'm a kid from Hemet. I don't know what the hell's going on. And all of a sudden people are yelling at me for no reason. And I was expecting to go to summer camp, you know, and just have a good time. And
Right.
It was not that. But I can tell you really quickly, I learned to run fast. I learned to shut up and just mind my business and do what I was told. And my world was totally fine.
So that's why your marriage has been so good for 30 years.
Exactly.
Run fast, shut your mouth, and do what you're told.
Yes.
Got it.
100%. Yeah.
Jedi mind tricks, even in the military.
Oh man. It was definitely, it was a good time. You know, after you get through the, you know, you're homesick, you never left home before. So you're
When you're
homesick.
freshly married, so the only thing you want is to be with her, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
we're going to take that one thing in your life that you actually want and take it from you.
100%.
Right? Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah. 8 weeks later, she came up and did watch me graduated, you know, the basic training part.
Mm-hmm.
We hung out for about a day and a half, and then, you know, went back, and she went back, and we finished. And I ended up going back home, and I was stationed. I got stationed at Fort Drum, New York, 2nd Battalion, 14th Infantry, which is, at the time, it was a rapid deployment unit. I was not aware of that, by the way. Yeah. But we were gone probably 9 months out of the year, you know, from the get-go. So I got out of basic training. I went home. Kim and I drove to New York. I got there in August 5th, I think, in 1994, right about the time that Operation Uphold Democracy in Haiti, if you remember that, was going on. So I got to basic training, checked into my unit, and 2 weeks later was told that we're going to Haiti for an undisclosed amount of time. So sent my wife back home to be with her mom, and we shipped off to Haiti.
Oh, wow.
Which was, it sucks. You're reunited with your wife, you're newlyweds, and then you're like, peace out. I'll see you when I see you,
Yeah.
It was different during our time, and I say our time, we're close to the same age, but 1994, there was no cell phones. There was no sat phones. There was nothing spectacular. Yeah. The one thing I had going for me was because I was tall, my platoon leader, second lieutenant, he liked me for what reason? I don't know. I guess I'm likable, but he liked me and wanted me to be his RTO, which I handled all communications for our platoon. And at the time I was in a line platoon. I was not in a scout platoon. So, I fell under the platoon leader and the platoon sergeant. I was their go-to for communications. So I had a crash course in the radio and this and that. And then I'm shipped off to Haiti. And no phone, no communication with my wife, who I want to talk to. And so we were in Haiti for probably a month, and we got shipped out from Cap Haitian, Haiti, to a little power plant that had been taken over by militia and that they were trying to take back over to restore power to the community. So we went there, and there was no militia there when we got there. We were kind of going there expecting to maybe have some resistance, but there was zero resistance. We walked right in, and we took that place over and set up everything. And so the first night that I was there, I'm checking out the communications, and lo and behold, in an office in the power plant, there's a telephone. I'm like, well, what do we got going on here? So I pick it up, and there's a dial tone, and I hit 0, and an operator actually comes on, and I said, can I make a collect call to the States? And this is probably, I don't know, maybe 2:00 in the morning. And she, oh yes, we can make a call. So phone rings, and my wife answers the other line. And so that was like my first communication with her in over a month, and,
right.
But then I'm in this situation, it's like, oh heck, if I tell everybody, then the phone line's going to get taken up. I'm not going to be able to call her. So I didn't tell anybody. So bad. What just a jerk move. But that was really fun until the next month her mom got that phone bill, and that was a whole other situation. But yeah, that was a good time.
So when did it change? Because I know you got to a point where you made a decision to be a career military guy. So you go to basic training, you hate it. This is terrible. What did I get myself into? Like, how does that? And this happens a lot, I'm sure, with people that, once you get over that hump, and by design, right, they want to beat the cry out of you, and recreate you from scratch, basically, right? Yep. So at what point, like, how far in did you go, you know what, I think this is for me?
Continuing on the Haiti story really quick, get back from Haiti. My wife meets me. Backing up a little bit, when I was in basic training, I got a call from my wife. They don't let you take phone calls, but if they do, if it's life or death. And it was a life situation. And my wife said, hey, I just want to let you know I'm pregnant. And so when I'm in basic training now, my newlywed wife is pregnant. And so moving on, we go through Haiti, and she comes home. I think it was.
So now you really want to talk to her, check on her.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Right. So it was like maybe November, middle of November, right before Thanksgiving, she came home. We got back from Haiti. And she's, fully pregnant, and she's got these major migraine headaches, and we couldn't figure out what they were. And I mean, when I say bad, they're so bad. She's getting sick. She's passing out. We're taken to the emergency room. So finally in December, we had a situation where she passed out, and I freaked out, took her to the emergency room, and they ended up running a series of tests, found out that she had a tumor the size of a softball in the back of her head. And that tumor was stopping. Your brain produces about a 1/4 pint of spinal fluid a day. Don't quote me on this, doctors, but
Right.
I think that's somewhere in that. And because of the tumor, it was blocking that from all going in down her spine. So it was crushing her brain. So immediately, and she's 8 months pregnant.
Oh my
So
gosh.
immediately, a guy by the name of Dr. Owen took her in to put a shunt in her head. And within 5 minutes, she was like wide awake and fully aware of what was happening, just back to normal. So what they decided, that was on a Saturday. On Monday, December 13th, 1994, they did a C-section. And then after the C-section, taking my firstborn daughter out, they flipped her over and did basically a craniotomy on her and removed the tumor.
Moly.
Yeah. So what happened during that process is, I'm not with my unit. Obviously, I'm in the hospital, and a guy by the name of Colonel Mark E. O'Neill was our battalion commander. He got wind of this. Just so happened that the battalion XO, which was a major, his wife was the ICU nurse. So they kind of all gathered around me and took me under their wing and, helped us in this situation, got her mom and her grandmother to come out and really took care of us during that time. My wife recovered miraculously and everybody was totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
But Colonel O'Neill said, hey, I don't want you going back to your unit. I want you to have time with your wife. I want you to be my battalion driver. So for an infantry guy, that you've got some pride and you're like, dang, I'm going to be a driver. But what he said to me was remarkable, because he said, Henson, if you're my driver for a year, I'll let you go anywhere you want to go. And I'll do whatever you need me to do to further your career. And he held to his word. I was his battalion driver for a year, which was actually kind of an intense job, because the guy, when we were out in the field, he was like a 24/7 guy. So at any time, I could be driving at 4 o'clock in the morning and, all night long, whatever it was, just going from unit to unit.
Mm-hmm.
But after that year, he said, okay, your year's up. Where do you want to go? And in everything I had, I wanted to be a scout. I wanted to be an infantry scout, and I wanted to go to the scout platoon. And he said, well, I can't just appoint you there. You have to try out for it. I can put in a good word, but you're going to kind of have to make it happen. So I did. When I became part of that scout platoon is when I decided, like, this is what I want to do for life. This is amazing. The community. Scout platoon's different than a line platoon. I mean, there's, you have 9 guys in an infantry squad. This is 5 guys. It's almost like a special forces unit. You all have your certain jobs to do. We have a sniper on every team. We have a spotter on every team. You have somebody with the saw. It's just everybody has their job.
Right.
And I just loved that community. We did things differently. We kind of operated like, an SF team, if you will, with, the same discipline and everything.
Right.
But from that point forward is kind of when I decided I really want to do this for life. I had a really good mentor. A guy by the name of Bo Pendergraft took me under his wing, right away. He was he was like a team leader and a really good friend of mine. But that's kind of when it all clicked for me, that I wanted to be, a ranger. I wanted to do it all.
So let me ask you this, kind of pausing there for a minute, was there something that you think that the military at that point in your life, a gap that it filled, a void that it filled that maybe you didn't have up to that point in your life?
Oh, for sure. Without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, it was
Purpose.
It was 100% purpose.
Right.
Yeah. It gave me drive,
Right.
Because you were rewarded on doing good things, whether it was through promotion, whether it was through any type of advancement or just attaboy, it's like I desired somebody to look at me in the face and say, I'm really proud of you. Like, you did an amazing job.
Right.
And with the team that I had, it was all about pumping you up and not tearing you down. Now, it's still the Army. I mean, if you screw up, you're getting smoked. If you
Right.
if you don't do something right, they're going to be on you. But I had an amazing first sergeant. We had our our entire community was amazing. And I was part of headquarters company. So we had, AT guys, the guys driving the Humvees with the 50 cals. We had the mortars, next to us. So we trained together, and you're doing things that you would never do in just a infantry line platoon.
Right.
It was very fun.
So then from there, the further advancement, you still had an interest in more of the special forces?
Yeah. So I, from there, I ended up, I never went and completed Ranger School. I went through RIP at Fort Drum, passed that, and then I re-enlisted for Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. And at the time, the whole Bosnia thing was starting to kick up, and so going to Ranger School, it was like, what unit is going to send you? And so at the time, I wanted to go to Ranger School, but Fort Drum wouldn't send me because I wasn't coming back to be an asset to Fort Drum. So I would have to go to Hawaii, prove myself there, probably go through RIP again, and then go to Ranger School. And I was like, RIP was fine, but it was just not fun, it wasn't very long. It was 3 or 4 weeks. So anyways, I re-enlist. I go to Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. And like I said earlier, the 2nd Battalion, 14th Infantry in Fort Drum was rapid deployment. So we were gone 9 months out of the year. And we were in Panama. We were all over the place doing different things. And I go to Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, and it was like somebody put the brakes on with both feet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm this guy that's like, I'm ready to go, and we're not going anywhere. We're not doing anything. And it was very, very boring for me. Not only that, they didn't have a spot in the scout platoon, so I was in a line platoon. I'd gotten pinned on E5, so I was alpha team leader of a squad. And, really, I just said, I got to get out of here. What can I do? And they had a qualification for Special Forces Assessment Selection course. And they kind of put on this whole deal where you can go there and you have to do so many exercises and kind of qualify to go to SFAS. So I did that with another buddy of mine. We qualified, we got a class date, and then we went to Special Forces Assessment Selection course, which was cool. And I went there, totally different from what I was expecting. RIP, Ranger School, it's all kind of like an extension of basic training. They just beat the crap out of you, from a sense of, sleep deprivation, food deprivation, smoking you constantly. And it was almost like a gentleman's course. Like, here's the cafeteria, eat as much as you want, like, we're not going to yell at you. We're not going to say anything bad to you. Right. But it was very much a mind game. And what I learned on really quick was don't eat very much, because when you eat, then they just give you an undisclosed place to run, and they don't tell you you're running 2 miles. You could run 2 miles, you could run 6 miles, you could run 10 miles. But if you just had 2 hamburgers, it's going to be very painful. Yeah. And I learned that lesson, from 2 hamburgers.
Right. So it transitions from them controlling you to you controlling yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was very, very different. They would have a cadre would just go out and write on a whiteboard. And so you had to have somebody from your section constantly on watch to the board. So you would just sit in a room, like on your bunk, like bored. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, 5 minutes, you need to have this attire on and, be out here to do this. And it worked out fine. Everything was good. And then about 3 days before graduation, we had a simulation of 2 downed Black Hawk pilots. And what they did was they filled two duffel bags, Army green duffel bags, with sand. They're a couple 100 pounds apiece. And they give you all this stuff to carry this. And just by happenstance, the way that we had this mechanism, it got dropped. And I was on the bad end of that drop, and it hyperextended my lower back, and I blew out my L3, L4, L4, L5 discs, 9 millimeters. And I was like in instant leg pain on my right side, and, tried to continue on. I had guys helping me. And then I said, okay, I think I'm good. And I put my rucksack on. And as soon as I put that weight on my back, it was like fell to the ground, crippled. So they ended up not graduating, got sent home. And then I went through rehab for a year with the Army, just going to all their rehabs. And they gave me an option of either reclassifying or getting out. And I decided to get out because I didn't want to be anything but infantry.
So what happens to a man when,
Yeah.
this identity that you've created, you're about to be, whatever the term would be, special forces,
Yeah.
ranger, what you're about to be that an elite level of what it is you wanted to do. And it's gone by no fault of your own. Like, what does that do to you, psychologically?
Yeah, it was tough because I was in the best shape of my life. Not just from a mindset, I was in a great place. Physically, I was in a great place. I never had any struggle with running or, being in any type of physical shape.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden you can't do anything. You can't run. Running was extremely
I bet.
brutal. Um, we used to talk a lot of smack about people that were on, like a medical,
Right.
whatever it was.
Like they're faking it. They're
Yeah,
making an
just
excuse
like,
to
and
get
now
out.
I'm
Right.
that guy,
Right.
and I'm like, and you kind of felt like, people were thinking that was of you. And I had some really good guys that knew it wasn't, but you just kind of get that when you're on profile. If I was on profile, which is, you have the can't return to work, can't lift more than 10 pounds, that
Yeah, right.
profile, you're just like, man, people that knew that I was a good person and a good soldier, understood that I wasn't just faking it. But it did get to a point where I was frustrated. I was taking that frustration out at home. I was angry. And then, finally I just was like, I'm done. I can't continue on doing this life of meandering around. And I didn't want the military cutting me. That was one thing I was kind of adamant about not having done.
Mm-hmm.
So the physical rehab wasn't working. And I ended up just taking the route of getting discharged. Had I done it over again, I might have explored something else to do. But when I think I got out at 25, almost 26, you're just still kind of stubborn person. And,
Right.
When I thought of desk job, I thought of the accounting guys, the
Right.
payroll guys. And
Right.
I'm like, yeah, my mind is not set that way, but obviously it is. I mean, you
Oddly
fast
enough,
forward,
exactly, right.
and here I am, a desk job. I mean, I get out and meet people, but, I could have done something meaningful still, but I chose, not to.
Yeah, I mean, not that what you've done isn't meaningful, right? But
Right.
in the military, I'm sure
Correct.
what you mean
Yeah,
by that.
100%.
Right. So you get out now, and now you're the shock of, the civilian life is there, right? Now you got
Yeah.
bills to pay. You
Yeah.
got, so now you go out and get a job, I'm assuming, obviously.
Yeah.
So what'd you do then?
So,
Because you went from, I get a paycheck, I have insurance, everything I need is taken care of, my wife's
Yeah.
taken care of, my daughter's taken care of,
Yep.
to,
I got a $20,000 severance pay, and I had to make that last.
Mhm.
I think I was making, now this is after, the military paid for water, electric, gas, housing, all of that. So I just showed up in a house and it was good to go. I think I brought home about $1,600 a month as an E5 during that time. And if you think about it, you have zero bills, you're no medical, nothing to worry about except the debt that you put yourself in.
Mhm.
It wasn't really a bad gig, at the time. So I get home. I did have an phone interview with EMWD, Eastern Municipal Water District, before I got out. And then as soon as I got home, I met with them and they said, we really liked you. You scored higher than anybody else, but we're going to hire the 2 temps that we had, doing that job. By the way, was a meter reader, like entry level. But we may have a job for you in January. So I had a October to January gap to fill to make money. And so I went back to what I knew, which was GKN Rentals,
Mhm.
and they had an opening in Long Beach.
Oh, jeez.
I'm renting a house in Menifee, by the way.
Mhm.
I've been gone for 6 years. And the 91 freeway has changed dramatically.
Mhm.
So I start driving to Long Beach. I did that for 30 days. And on one Friday, I was driving home and it took me 4 hours to get home. I called my boss on Monday and said, I'm never driving there again. I will email you or FedEx you, your keys and all that stuff. And I never went back. I was done after 30 days, mostly because I found myself missing my family. It's like, okay, I'm getting out of the military. I'm going to be able to raise my kids. At this time, we have 2 girls, Tori and Tristan. And, I think Tristan at the time was 3, Tori was 6. So it was like, beginning of school and things like that. I'm missing everything. So I ended up did some like mapping work for a company called K&B Engineering, which I actually insure them to currently.
Nice.
I've known the owner for that long. He was a really cool dude. And so anyways, I went to work there until one day in January, I got a call from EMWD and said, okay, you're hired, come on. So I ended up working there, and I took the fabulous pay of $10.50 an hour,
Sweet.
which was not good. I had to pay for housing and all that stuff, and $10.50 an hour is brutal. But we made it work, and through this, through everything, and I have to back up a little bit, but I was just talking about the Lord. I was I won't say atheist, but I grew up, went through catechism, was a Catholic, but just through the drama and the trauma that I had from my childhood, I kind of was like, there can't be a God. I'm kind of quasi-atheist in my own mind, but really, I know that there's something out there. When I was in New York, my wife said, I want to go to church. And I was like, well, I ain't going to church, And it was kind of like, we're going to church. And I was like, yes, dear. Okay, we'll go to church. And I gave my life to the Lord at Blackwater Baptist Church in New York. And it was, I think that was in 1996, and I haven't looked back. I've loved the Lord since, and obviously made some mistakes along the way. But one thing I do have is Him in my ear, when I do make those mistakes. But I say that because through this process of, the Army and EMWD and all that stuff, God had His hand. He had a plan, And
I was thinking the exact same thing. And then obviously what you went through with your wife, and it's like that
100%.
if that doesn't make you question your faith,
Yeah.
not question your lack of faith, because at the end of the day, it all worked out.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
Yep.
what could have easily been terrible,
Right.
it obviously wasn't good, but I mean, at the end of the day, it brought you together. It, I'm sure, pushed you more into having faith and understanding, man, there's something bigger than us.
Right.
So that's great. And how else do you get through all those things? I mean, how else do any of us get through anything? I mean, definitely by being men, be masculine, we can handle stuff, but we know what that really is.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
Yeah. I mean, it becomes, you humble yourself, you have to humble yourself in front of the Lord and, kind of give yourself to Him daily. I find myself daily in my word. If I can't read, I'll turn it on and put it through, Bluetooth in my car just to hear the word, because you have to have that in your life daily.
Right. Well, and you're almost, I mean, we've talked about this over the years, even just what you listen to on the way to work. This just, when we both made those mistakes of listening to stuff that, just you listen to, and then you don't realize what you're listening to, and then you change that, and it's like, wow, my entire day seems different.
Yeah.
You like, my whole mindset seems different today. It's maybe I wasn't listening to Tupac on the way in today or whatever, or whatever, Instead, I was listening to something, good and uplifting and positive, and gives me a whole different outlook on my entire day.
100%.
I'm not I don't feel like busting a cap in somebody today, But it's true. Like, what you put in yourself and what you surround yourself with is so powerful. And so it's subliminal, like
it is
that stuff, that you
100%.
put in.
Yeah.
And when you're in the positions that we're in, whether it just be husband and father, you're still in a serious, significant leadership role. And you need to be able to, I say it all the time, you need to be the waves that everyone else's you need to be the rock that everyone else's waves bounce off of. Right.
Yeah.
So we don't get to be all screwed up, because we have to be solid all the time. And those little mistakes like that, like listening to the wrong stuff or just being in the wrong environments can weaken you in that sense.
Right. Yep. And you need to surround yourself by like like-minded, like-kind people.
For sure.
You know, like somebody that I can call and bounce things off of, or when I'm frustrated, I can kind of let it out and you know, be told it's okay, or it's going to be okay, or you know, do this instead of this and see how that works, you know, type thing.
Yeah.
Being surrounded by good people, you know, is huge for guys in general. Having your wife is amazing, but sometimes she doesn't get the work situations that we're in, the hardship that we're in through work. And I don't like to share a lot of that either, because I just, you know, honestly, when I get home, I don't want to bum her out or talk about it again. You know, it's like, you know, and I get in trouble for that. Guy, you don't really talk about work. It's like, no, I don't really want to. You know, it's like, I didn't really have a great day. I share my wins with her and some of the losses, you know, and so she can see some of it on my face, but I try and separate that because I need it just as much as anybody else does.
For sure. And women process those things in such a different way. You know, we have a problem. We're wired to fix it. They have a problem. They're wired to feel it. Yeah. You know, differently. Yep. So it's like something that, you know, some crap that happens at work is stressing you out and you're pissed. You got to handle it. And you go tell them. Like it's going to bug them. It's going to bother them like at an emotional level. And it's like, you don't want to do that to them, especially when they have there's nothing they can do about it.
Right.
I tell my wife the same thing. She's like, well, you don't ever talk about stuff. And because I found myself coming, how was your day? Well, this and this. And then she's all stressed out. And I'm like, why am I doing this to you? Like, there's nothing you can do. You're not going to show up to the office tomorrow and help me figure these things out. So why don't we just draw that line, you know, and just be my wife when I come home, you know?
Most recently, I had this account. That's one of my largest deals. And some other, you know, not even a broker, it was a guy that ran a different program for workers' comp, got in the door type thing. And I know the guy, total dirtbag and not truthful type thing. Anyways, blows a bunch of smoke. And the guy's like, yeah, he's coming in 300 grand less than you. I'm like, there's no way. I control the program for, you know, this industry. And there's no way. I've seen everything. And so I call my good friend who actually runs the program. He's like, there's no way. Long story short, I go home. On my way home, I'm praying about it. Like, Lord, if it's in your will for me to not have this, I just pray that you just replenish the account, you know, and I'm okay with it. 5 years ago, I would lose sleep. I would lose a week of sleep thinking about this account. So I went home, told Kim about it. And, you know, I think she was more stressed than I was. And I slept 100% fine. I literally gave it to the Lord. And I honestly feel that he was testing me in that. Like, will you actually give this to me and trust me? And I did. And I retained the account. And I just, you know, it took like us explaining some things and him understanding it. But it was one of those things where, you know, 5 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, I would have been so upset and so worried. I even told my buddy at my program, I'm like, you know what? I have a feeling that if we lose this deal, we will replenish it. Like, I just feel that strongly. I'm not even stressed.
Yep. I can say that with 1,000% certainty, you know, for the faith that I have, like, because it's happened to me more times than I can count. Oh, things are, if I look back on all the times that I was extremely stressed out, whether it be lawsuits, which, you know, I went through and was terrible and all that. And if I could just, and that's what wisdom is that I'm starting to gain at my age, is like, if I could just go back and tell that dude, even a few years ago, like you just said, you're literally going to be fine. Yes, this sucks in the moment, but 1,000%, 100% of the time, you're still here. Yeah. You're still fine. Like you didn't lose your home. You didn't lose your vehicles. You didn't lose your business. You didn't lose, like, everything's fine. Yeah. You know, would it be nice if it was just one win after another? Sure. But then would the wins even be wins? Right. You know? Yeah. So it's just definitely part of it. But if you operate, and I tell people that all the time with my franchises and things like that, when they're wigging out over things, and it's like, if you have faith, then you know how this ends. Right. Yep. Right. So then with all the stuff in the middle, yeah, it'd be great if everything was great all the time. But if you know how it ends, you just operate differently. Yeah. And that is faith. You know,
I'm at a point in my life where I feel like I'm happy. I'm financially stable. I'm not stressed out as much as I used to be. And I could just stay right here and finish my life. I think ultimately, don't tell my wife, but I will. I could do insurance well into my 70s, and I think I would, just because it keeps your mind sharp. I don't want to lose my sharpness, my memory. I have to remember a lot of stuff. Like when you or anybody calls me, I have to be able to answer it. And sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. But I think that it's a good place to be. But like you're a hunter. Going back to wins, you're a hunter. When you hunt, you want to get something every single time. But when you don't, you're bummed. But when you do get that kill, you're extremely like, yes, you're so happy. But if you got that kill every time you walked out your front door, it wouldn't be anything. It wouldn't be fun,
We've talked about that on multiple podcasts. As men, we're wired to hunt. The kill, if you will, and you could be talking literally about hunting. You could be talking about business. It's fun. My whole office is buzzing when we're about to get a big contract and we're working on something, and then you get it and you're like, and then it's like, on to the next one. It's like, okay, the hunt's over. Now what? Right? It's
100%.
Like, now what do we do with this? Now we have to do the work, So it's like, we're wired to want to hunt. And that's where I've had people ask me before, like, what do you do for fun, Jeff? And I admit I probably need to do better when it comes to vacationing and stuff, because I literally never do. But I have fun doing this. So it's like, I enjoy the hunt every day. I enjoy a stack of problems to solve on a daily basis, because it's what keeps us sharp, and it's my purpose. So it's like changing that and figuring out what your purpose is. You can be, and as you know, I have a book coming out, and one of the chapters is called Always Grateful, Always Grateful, Never Satisfied. And I try to live my life that way. I'm grateful for what I have, but I still got hunt left in me, and I think same thing. You could be a 70-year-old insurance broker going, I want to get this one, contact or contractor or account that I've been trying to get since I was 50, and I got it.
Exactly.
Great. It's exciting. But, so back to, something I want to touch on a little bit. What's really unique about you is, oddly enough, is the fact that you were married so young and you're still married, right? That's unique. And when you first got married, you weren't a faith-driven couple?
No.
Neither of you really at that time.
My wife had gone to see a movie, Hell's Gates, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was some movie, and she actually gave her. It was a play. Sorry, it was a play at a high school or something, and it was called Heaven's Gates and Hell's something. But it was about heaven and hell, and it was about faith and what happens if you're a non-believer, when you die. And she gave her life to the Lord then, but really never had substance. Her sister, Catherine, and my brother-in-law, Jim, they were Christians, and they actually took Kim to that. And so that was always kind of in the background of our lives. But yeah, when we were married, it was not faith-driven at all, zero. And it wasn't until, we were in Fort Drum at our place where she had said she wanted to, it really came down to, I think she wanted to take Tori, my oldest daughter, to church, and she wanted to go as well. And it was just kind of like, I'm going without you if you don't go. And I was one of those people. It's like, no, I'm not going to let my wife go without me somewhere. I'll take you, and
I'll sit there and deal with it.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But it was so different. When I was a Catholic, it was like, sit, stand, pray, sit, stand, kneel, stand, sit, go up, and do your thing. And it was very, very structured. And I go to this Christian, non-denominational, he's a Baptist, I guess. But everybody's dressed nice, and we were dressed nice, but it was different. It was like people are singing, people have their hands raised to the Lord, and the music was different. It wasn't like you're singing a hymn book. It was different. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. Okay, I can kind of get into this. And we did. And the Lord had a plan, and he got a hold of me there.
So a couple questions on that topic. I talk about masculinity all the time. Like, I certainly don't own it, but I'm proud of it. And I know you are as well. How would you define biblical masculinity versus, what do they call it? The manosphere masculinity that is kind of out there today.
I don't know. You say biblical masculinity, and the first person that comes to my mind is David. King
Mhm.
David was a scrawny little boy,
Mhm.
that the Lord used for mighty, mighty things. And he is the kind of I don't know, the poster child for Christian masculinity. He slayed the lion and killed the giant and um, is just a man's man.
Mhm.
People looked up to him and people loved him. He loved the Lord. There's, you know, uh, I don't know where it is in the Bible off the top of my head, but talks about him praising the Lord and dancing in front of the tabernacle like a crazy man for hours, just
Mhm.
dancing and loving the Lord. And you think, God, that's weird. If what if, the guy that we would think is the most masculine guy, and not
Mhm.
Christian or Christian, on this earth, just dancing and doing weird stuff at church, you'd be like, oh, that's kind of weird. But this is somebody that opened himself up in front of everybody. He didn't care, and dancing in front of the Lord, honoring the Lord.
Mhm.
But yet he was just a bad A dude.
Mhm.
You didn't mess with them. And that's kind of what I think when you talk about,
Yeah.
biblical Christianity or biblical masculinity, that's the guy that comes to my
Right.
mind.
Right, and you can, I imagine you could shape that even beyond that to, uh, um, like Jordan Peterson talks about, being um, dangerous, but having that under control,
Yeah.
capable
Yeah.
of tons of violence, capable of whatever to protect
100%.
your family or to protect the weak, but never wanted to do that.
Right.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. The strong silent type, if you will.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm certainly capable. I know, the power that's been given to me,
Yeah.
but I don't use that as a way to hurt anyone else.
Right.
Right. And so many people lose track of that, and they want to walk around like a tough guy and puff up and intimidate people and do things
Yeah.
like that. And you and I both know those are the guys you don't need to worry about for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to, it's like I avoid those people in my life.
Yeah,
you
for sure.
the ones that run their mouth, the ones that, you're like, I just, I want to be honoring to everybody. Even if somebody is disrespectful, it's like, okay, but if you do something against my family or my wife, we're going to have a problem,
Right.
And sometimes I probably let too much go, but, I think that,
Well, I will venture to say that's because you know what you're capable of. I mean, you're
Yeah.
not just a big, strong guy. You're a trained soldier. You could hurt someone,
Yeah.
and I know it's not in you. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not your
Yeah, yeah.
ways, but I mean,
Yeah.
when you have that ability, when you're carrying a big stick,
Yeah.
if you will,
yeah,
you need to have a lot of control over
Yeah.
that, right? So to your point, like I let people get away with a little more than
Yeah.
most people would. That's because, it becomes a zero-sum game at some point.
Yeah.
Like
my wife knows when shit's about to hit the fan, let's put it that way.
Right.
And she's really good at kind of grabbing me and taking me in another direction.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
no, that's how men are supposed to be,
yeah.
right? There's my wife she knows how to de-escalate a situation if needed, right?
Yeah.
And so do we, but like, there's a time where only she
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
save that dude, it's honey, it's not worth it. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect blend, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me skip forward a little bit. So you have 3 daughters, right?
3. Yeah.
3 daughters.
And we raised my niece, who's 19, from when she was a newborn until she was 5.
Okay.
Very,
So you're still close with her, I would assume.
very close. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
she calls me dad, and I consider her a daughter. Yeah.
So raising your daughters, raising only daughters,
Mhm.
not having any sons, like what were some of the intentional things, knowing your faith, knowing your traditional values, if you will, like what are some of the things that you just really worked at, you and your wife, to instill in them?
Oh man, I think number one, being in church, was a big thing in our lives. Making sure that they were in church, making sure that they had faith in the Lord. Protecting them as a dad, probably too much. Or they'll tell me it was too much at least. But not letting them do certain things that we didn't feel was good. And just really, drilling down school and being responsible and, teaching them life skills. And, obvious mistakes along the way. We're not perfect by any means. And my wife and I both have made, mistakes with our daughters.
Of course.
But, if I had the magical wand to go back in time, I would never give them a cell phone or social media, ever.
For sure.
I just think, especially parents in this day and age, it's a struggle because social media for girls creates physical problems. They're always comparing themselves to something that they can't compare or something that might even be AI. That I don't know if you've seen things. I've seen so much stuff that I'm like, there's no way that that's real. And it's AI, or some stuff does look real and you're like, and it's AI,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, especially in girls, I think there's just a lot of comparison, whether it's body, whether it's friends, whether it's style and fashion, that they have to deal with that you and I don't, it's Mars to you and I. We know it now, but when we were growing up at that age, we were worried about, where are we going to skate or where are we going to BMX or where are we going to do this, not about, oh, look at what this person's doing or that person's doing.
How many likes I got or didn't got, and no one liked what thing I posted, or, that
100%.
Even as grown adults, you can get sucked into that sometimes, right? For the young people, and then I guess for the interesting question, I think for you is having daughters, what do you feel about young men in this day and age? Like how, I have a daughter obviously, but it's, you have 3, right? So it's like, what is it,
Yeah.
What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your fears, as it relates to that, as far as, what did you tell your daughters? What do you tell your daughters,
Or what my daughters tell me.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is advice-wise, this is what you should be looking for,
Yeah. I tell my oldest daughter, Tori, is married to my wonderful son-in-law, Eric. They live in Cerritos, and I have 2 grandsons from them. So she figured it out,
Nice.
and they've been married for 5 years now, I believe. My middle daughter, Tristan, it's funny. I tell her now, she's 28. I tell her now, like, you need to find somebody like 40 that has a career and has, because she didn't, I was married at 20. Kim was married at 17. So she's, 11 years older than Kim. And it's like.
You say 40? You told her to find like a 40-year-old man?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so weird because I absolutely understand from like a maturity level, probably what you're saying.
Yes.
But as a dad too, I'm like, get away from my young daughter, you creep. Right?
100%. Yeah. But it's this weird fine line, I guess, because, I think about the young men that are 28 right now. And a lot of them, if they don't have a girlfriend, they don't have a job, they live with their parents, they don't have a drive.
Yeah.
And they're kind of douchebags.
For sure.
And Tristan will even say it, like kids my age are not like really go-getters.
Yeah.
Now, my youngest daughter, Kesslyn, Tristan will be like, I might as well go backwards and date kids that are 23 because they have more of a drive than kids my age. But then, then there's that gap. So I'm always like, go find someone in their mid-30s or, 40, because hopefully they have. But then it comes down to, okay, why aren't you married, or were you married? Do you have, it's
right.
So it's.
But I agree with that. I think there's that weird, I talk about all the time, like my son who's 20, like his generation, like all his friends are super ambitious. He just got married, obviously.
Yeah.
Multiple jobs, goes to the gym, like dedicated, disciplined, regimented, like just go. And then go forward a couple years and those, that 25 to 28, 29, that group of boys and girls, a lot of them have really struggled to launch, and I think that if the low hanging fruit on that is COVID.
100%. I was literally just going to say that. I think they got the crap into the stick.
Yeah.
They really, really did, because, think about even college,
Right.
Kesslin was kind of on the back end of that. But
Right.
think about these kids that were in college that got sent home because you couldn't go to school, you couldn't be on campus, you couldn't do whatever. And they're in the middle 2 years through school. Do they even go back? What do they do? So now they're just meandering through life, trying to figure it out, and never really, like you said, kind of failed to launch.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is the hope for society is it does seem like this next younger generation is, ramping back up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we just forget about those.
No.
They still need guidance. They still need opportunity. They still need, time, I guess. But if you're in that age group, get your shit together at the same time, right? I mean, you don't get forever, right? It's like, yes, these things happened, but worse things have happened to other people and they still got through it. So it's like, I think we all acknowledge that was a tough, unique experience, but you get one shot on this planet,
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's as we start getting ready to close this thing, have a few. I'd like to do some fun rapid fire stuff.
All right.
So, tougher challenge: special forces or raising daughters?
Raising daughters. Yep.
One trait every young man needs.
Integrity.
Nice. Best advice that you have personally ever received?
Oh, man. Probably give yourself to the Lord. Give your life to the Lord.
Okay, solid. Something your wife has right about you that took you years to admit. You owe me,
This
Kim.
is good. This is so good. We talk about this all the time, but she knows when something's bothering me before I even know something's bothering me. And what I say by that is I get very quiet. I just get, you can ask her, it freaks her out because I just don't talk. I'm just quiet. And she'll go, what's wrong? And nothing's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And she just like keeps poking the bear. And then I'm like, okay, here's what's going on. And she's like, why didn't you just say that 3 days ago when we could have, been past this?
Right.
But it's like, well, 3 days ago, I didn't know what was bothering me, but now I do, but she has, this intuition to know when something's going on with me before I even realize that it's affecting, me personally.
Okay. And maybe a little bit more of a serious one. What do you hope your daughters say about you when you're not in the room? I'm trying to get this big army guy to cry.
Yeah. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. I want them to say that my dad was a good man, that he worked hard, and he loved us.
So kind of spinning off on that, a final question, if you will, and it's your answer, I'm sure, is going to be very similar, but you can go in a little more detail if you want, is when it's all over, when you're done, what does a life well lived look like to you? Not just to your daughters, to everybody. Like, what would you want them to say about you? This is how Jim lived. This is who Jim was.
The same way I was kind of opening up about my grandfather, that would be for me, for my kids, for my grandkids, for people I've come in contact with, to say, he was this person, and be able to tell that same story that I could tell about my grandfather, just a man of integrity, hard worker, loved, beyond. Loved you for who you were, not because of what you did yesterday or not how you screwed this up, but just loved you for being you. And, and every moment is a training moment with him. It was, he was a quiet man, but he was so full of wisdom in what he said. He didn't say anything just off the cuff. It was wisdom. It was good. I don't think he ever got mad at me. One time he chased me around a tree with a switch, and if nobody knows what a switch is, let me tell you, it freaking hurts when it hits you. But that's what I would want. Yeah,
that's fair. Sure. And I think that's noble. And, in closing, I'll say this, a lot of people focus their lives on some massive event, some crazy thing. I did this, I accomplished this, I walked on the friggin' moon, whatever. But the real secret is just being a good man, a hard worker, sacrificing for your family, year after year, decade after decade, and then you will likely have that legacy when it's all over, like Jim just said.
Yeah.
And if you're a real man, that's all you really want. You don't want people to talk about how many views you had on social media that when you're at a certain age. That may be important for business or whatever, but for during your life, but that's not who you are. And so to really succeed in life, guys, doesn't mean what you see every time you open your phone and look on social media. It means being married to the same woman since you were a young man, raising great kids, having good friends, having faith, having all of the things that Jim has built, Jim has earned, Jim has cultivated. And now he gets to enjoy that part of his life. And I think so many people miss out on that. Just keep it simple. Keep it simple, soldier, right?
Yeah.
And you can have a great opportunity to have a great life and leave a great legacy that will live on past you. So
100%.
how do people get in touch with you if they want to maybe do some business with you, talk insurance with you? Is there just your email? What would the best way to contact you?
Best way to contact me would be my email, which is jwhenson, HENSON @acrisure, ACRISURE.com. Email me there and I will get back to you right away.
And if anybody needs to contact us, if you didn't catch that, feel free to reach out to us here at the show and we'll put you in contact with them. And again, from a business side of things, I can't stress enough having people around you that you can trust. You just learned, over an hour about who Jim is, and everything that just came out of him resembles trust, integrity, all of those things. So surround yourself with people like him in your business. It'll make your life a lot easier. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.